Let's talk about something most ultra runners don't want to admit: overeating. We'll talk about training splits. We'll talk about zone 2. We'll talk about VO2 max. We'll talk about recovery protocols, sodium intake, carb loading, and race strategy. But nobody wants to talk about what happens when the run is over and you're standing in the kitchen eating everything in sight. You crushed a long run. You burned 4,000 calories. You tell yourself you earned it. And maybe you did. But sometimes it's not hunger. Sometimes it's stress. Sometimes it's exhaustion. Sometimes it's emotional emptiness disguised as appetite. Sometimes you're not feeling your body. You're trying to silence something. And ultra runners are masters at hiding. We hide in the training mouths. We hide in the races. We hide behind discipline. But discipline on the trail means nothing if you lose control when nobody is watching. What would happen if you became as disciplined with your nutrition as you are with your mileage? What if you paused before reaching for food and asked, am I actually hungry or am I tired? Am I underfueled or emotionally drained? Am I eating for recovery or for comfort? Because there's a difference. Food is fuel. Food is recovery. Food is necessary. But food cannot solve burnout. Food cannot solve stress. Food cannot solve loneliness. And food cannot solve self-hate. And every ultra runner knows this truth. Temporary comfort creates long-term frustration. You don't need perfection. You need awareness. You need systems. You need recovery meal planned before exhaustion hits. You need sleep. You need hydration. You need emotional honesty. And most importantly, you need to stop pushing yourself. One bad night doesn't define you. One binge doesn't erase your progress. One weekend of overeating doesn't make you weak. The question is, can you be honest enough to break the cycle? Because the person who can run 50 miles can absolutely master what happens in the kitchen. The same mental toughness you bring to mile 40. Bring that honesty to your daily habits. And remember this: your goal is not to become lighter. Your goal is not to become stronger, more disciplined, more aware, and more free. And freedom is being able to fuel your body without being controlled by food. That's the real. So I wanted to start each episode also, with a motivational speech, but also a joke. So why don't ultra runners ever get lost? Because every time they run, they find another mile. I know you guys like that one. That's pretty funny. All right. So today we're going to talk about overeating. And something I've always struggled with. You just kind of have to be mindful. Obviously, if you're eating whole foods, if you overeat on whole foods, you're not going to gain that much weight, right? As if you were eating other types of foods, highly processed foods. And then if you overeat on that stuff, then definitely bigger consequences. But even overeating on whole foods is not helpful to the body. So just trying to I guess, come with ways to eliminate overeating. I grew up in the South where there was all you can eat buffets, and you would just eat and eat and eat. And so I got a pretty big stomach. I don't know if I ever get the feeling of being full. Obviously, it's even worse when you're an ultra runner, because after you do a long run, you're always starving and eating and eating and eating. Some stuff to help that definitely is getting more protein that can help you feel fuller longer. Some great protein options for people with heart disease would be like egg whites. If you do egg whites, they don't have any cholesterol in them, but you'll get the protein from the egg, which is good. So that could be a good option for some great protein. Although chicken, it's low in fat, but you're going to get a lot of protein with chicken. But there is still cholesterol in chicken, but not as much as beef. So, but beef is a great option as well. But you can't overeat on that, unless you don't have any problems with cholesterol, I guess. But I always find that cholesterol can impact my breathing when I run and stuff. So it's something that I always am concerned about. So, and then shrimp is another great one to eat for lots of protein. But once again, shrimp has lots of cholesterol. So, and I can't eat shrimp because I think I'm allergic to it of some sort. So, yeah, every time I eat that stuff, I can't really breathe. So, that's a problem. So you gotta give that up. But if you don't have any problems with it, and you don't have any problems with cholesterol, then go for it for sure. But yeah, the egg whites, that's a great protein option. And then you can always do some whey protein that can help as well. But anyways, yeah, besides protein, you definitely need to take in your electrolytes and refuel the body with carbs that it needs from that long run. Although maybe you've been running and eating while you've been running, but you still need to load up some carbs for sure. And fat as well. Great option with fat is seeds and nuts. That's a great source for fat. Also, if you get the beef. But yeah. Anyways, this episode we're going to talk about overeating and maybe some strategies to help with overeating. And I know I've always struggled with overeating myself, which kind of controlled that a little bit. So I don't really do that much anymore. But I mean, if you never have the feeling of fullness, it's bound to come up again. So I mean, you have a bad day, that's okay. You just don't want to make it a habit, right, of having lots of bad days. So, it's all about balance it out. So, but we'll play this episode about overeating, and hopefully it'll give us some strategies to be more mindful in the kitchen after a long run. So, we definitely know what to eat, and we don't just start reaching for snacks and whatever we see at that moment. Maybe before you go on your long run, you can have a meal prepped That way, when you get back from the long run, you're ready to eat it, and it's ready to be eaten, and you don't have to cook for 20 minutes. If you're cooking chicken or whatnot, or eggs, then it'll definitely be faster to eat. So then you're not snacking so much on other stuff that maybe you shouldn't be eating to help your recovery. Because the number one thing you want to do after a long run is get into recovery mode and give the body what it needs, right? Which is nutrition and rest. And so, all right. Wanted to say thank you for tuning in. And, I know there's a lot of podcasts out there, a lot of audiobooks. So if you're listening to this, I appreciate it. And hopefully it's worth your time. Hopefully you can gain something from the episode to improve your life and improve your running. So thanks for being here, and thanks for taking the time. You can always follow. I've been dropping an episode every Saturday at 3 in the morning. So if you are an ultra runner, you could be getting out earlier than that. Especially when you get into your long mileage. But hopefully you'll be able to be at home when that drops and download the podcast before you leave or whatnot. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll go ahead and play the episode, and hopefully this will help you come up with some ideas to stop overeating, and give you some more tips for your nutrition when you're done with your long run, to help improve your life and improve your ultra running.
Just running for so long and pushing your body so relentlessly that you burn through 18,000 calories.
Which is, just an astronomical number.
Right. I want you to really think about that number for a second. 18,000 calories. That is the caloric equivalent of sitting down and, eating roughly 33 Big Macs.
Yeah, all in one go.
Exactly. So ask yourself, what does an energy deficit that massive actually do to the human brain?
It's a fantastic question.
Like, what does it do to your hormones, your nervous system, just your baseline biology? Today, we are looking at the terrifying, seemingly uncontrollable phenomenon known to endurance athletes as rungers.
Yeah, the biological answer is, it's nothing short of chaos. When you push the human body to those absolute extremes, the survival mechanisms, the ones that kept our ancestors alive, they kick in with overwhelming ferocity.
And for you, the listener, if you are just starting your ultra running journey, we know exactly what you're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. We hear it all the time.
The training itself is hard enough, right? You're logging the miles, you're dealing with the blisters, the early mornings.
The chafing.
The chafing. But managing the extreme hunger that follows a long run can honestly feel like impossible.
It really can.
You finish a 15-mile run, you feel amazing, you feel accomplished, but then, 3 hours later, you are standing in front of the open fridge, eating the entire contents of your pantry.
Just staring into the void, eating everything in sight.
Right, and feeling like you've just ruined all of your healthy weight goals and all the discipline you built up during the run. It is incredibly frustrating.
It's deeply frustrating because, it feels like a personal failure. But right out of the gate, we need to establish a completely new baseline for how you view this hunger.
Yes, please.
This is not a failure of willpower. It is not a lack of discipline. What you are experiencing is a profound, ancient biological response to a massive energy deficit.
So it's not just me having no self-control.
Exactly. Your body isn't trying to sabotage your weight goals. Mm-hmm. It is frantically trying to keep you alive.
Well, welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. We are going to decode that biological chaos today, and we are drawing from a truly fascinating stack of sources to do it.
We really have some great data today.
We've got a clinical study on athletes running a 230-kilometer ultramarathon in Germany. which, by the way, is where that 18,000 calorie number comes from.
Mind-blowing study, honestly.
We also have sports dietitian guidelines from Peloton and Runners Connect, some metabolic research from BUBS Naturals, and behavioral psychology strategies tailored specifically for endurance athletes.
And our mission today is to take all of that complex metabolic science and translate it into simple, actionable habits for you, the new ultra runner.
Because we want to give you the actual tools to stop the post-run binge before it even starts.
Right. We are going to provide 3 specific top 10 lists today.
Which I love. I love a good list.
Me too. We have the top 10 ways to stop overeating, the top 10 whole foods to keep you full, and the top 10 mindful practices to manage your food awareness.
But before we get to the solutions, we have to understand the problem, right? Like, why is your brain screaming for calories? Let's move from the emotional frustration of a post-run binge into the raw metabolic data.
Yeah, let's talk about that German study, the Tortue de Ruhr ultramarathon.
Right, so this study, it's published in MDPI, and it's basically a goldmine for understanding endurance metabolism.
It really is. The researchers looked at athletes running distances of 100 kilometers, 160.9 kilometers, and a staggering 230 kilometers.
Which is just, I can't even fathom that.
And keep in mind, this is a nonstop foot race. They tracked the athlete's energy intake, like what they actually managed to eat and drink on the move versus their energy expenditure.
Deficit was huge, right?
Massive.
Yeah.
Undeniable energy deficits. The average deficit across the board was nearly 6,800 kilocalories.
Okay, let's unpack this. A 6,800 calorie deficit. For a normal person, that is essentially 3 full days of food completely gone.
Just vaporized.
Vaporized on the pavement.
Exactly. And in the 230 kilometer group, the deficit peaked at over 18,000 kilocalories.
That's the 33 Big Mac.
Right. And when you dig a hole that deep, your endocrine system, which is the network of glands that produce hormones to regulate metabolism, growth, and mood, it goes into absolute overdrive to compensate.
It's panicking.
Completely. It perceives this massive calorie burn as a severe threat to your survival. But the fascinating part is that this hormonal panic doesn't happen immediately.
Right. Because during the run itself, you don't actually feel that hungry. In fact, a lot of new runners struggle to choke down a single energy gel.
Yeah, it's very common.
The sources call this exercise-induced anorexia. So what is actually happening in the body while your feet are hitting the pavement? Why don't you feel that 18,000 calorie hole opening up?
Well, it comes down to your nervous system. During hard, prolonged exercise, your body shifts into a sympathetic nervous system state.
That's the fight or flight thing, right?
Exactly. This is the classic fight or flight mode. Evolutionarily, if you are running for hours, your body assumes you are either fleeing a predator or hunting prey over long distances.
Like running from a tiger.
Yeah. And in that state, digesting a sandwich is the absolute last priority. So your body forcefully shunts blood away from your digestive tract.
It just cuts the stomach off.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
It directs that blood to your working muscles to keep you moving and to your skin to help you sweat and cool down.
So your stomach is essentially closed for business.
Completely closed. And hormonally, the chemical signals follow suit. The primary hunger hormone in the human body is called acylated ghrelin.
Ghrelin, right, the hunger gremlin.
Exactly. During intense exercise, this hormone dropped by about 16.5%.
Oh, wow.
Simultaneously, your satiety hormones, the hormones that tell your brain you are full, specifically PYY and GLP-1, they actually spike.
Wait, really? So your body is actively telling you that you're full while you run?
Yes. Your body is chemically suppressing your appetite so that you aren't distracted by hunger while you were trying to survive this massive physical effort.
But then you stop running, you cross the finish line, or you reach your driveway, and 30 to 90 minutes post-run, as you take a shower and sit on the couch, your nervous system shifts.
Drop back down.
You transition out of fight or flight and into the parasympathetic state, which is rest and digest, and that's when the ghrelin rebounds.
Aggressively. As your core temperature finally drops and blood flow returns to your gut, that chemically suppressed ghrelin surges.
It just comes flooding back.
And it doesn't just return to normal. It often spikes to levels significantly higher than before you even started the run.
So it's overcompensating.
Exactly. It is a physiological pendulum swinging back with intense, uncontrollable force. You've transitioned from fleeing the tiger to, well, I must replace the energy I just burned or I will die.
Wow. I want to give you, the listener, a way to visualize this. Think of your muscle glycogen stores. You know, the stored carbohydrates you use for energy, like your smartphone battery.
That's a great analogy.
When your phone is at 100%, everything runs smoothly. But when it hits 1%, what happens? The screen dims, background apps close, features shut down entirely.
You go into low power mode.
Right, and a giant frantic warning flashes on the screen, telling you to plug it in immediately. Your brain is doing the exact same thing when you finish a long run. But it's not just the hormones like ghrelin sounding the alarm, is it? The sources mention an independent glycogen depletion signal.
Yes, and this is a crucial concept for a beginner ultra runner to grasp. Let's say, hypothetically, that you could magically stabilize your ghrelin levels after a run so the hunger hormone wasn't spiking at all.
Okay, a magic pill for ghrelin.
Even if you did that, completely empty muscle glycogen stores send their own separate, urgent, need food now signal directly to the brain.
Like a backup alarm system.
Oh, yes. The brain literally senses the lack of internal fuel availability independent of those other hormones.
Which explains so much. This is why a 15-mile long run causes a completely different, much more primal hunger than, say, a 3-mile neighborhood jog.
Exactly.
It's not just that you burned more calories, you have entered a completely different metabolic state. You've emptied the tank.
Precisely. And when that tank is empty, the body's natural response is to urge you to eat back all those calories you burned to ensure survival.
That makes total sense.
But here's where the research gets incredibly counterintuitive. We look at a concept called energy compensation.
Yeah, the research on energy compensation is wild because the logical assumption is a 1-to-1 ratio, right? Like if I burn 1,000 calories on a trail run, my body will drive me to eat exactly 1,000 calories to break even.
That is the assumption, yes. But it's mathematically incorrect. Research shows that humans only partially compensate for exercise energy expenditure.
Wait, really?
Yeah, the compensation rate usually falls between 28% and 63%.
Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I'm getting this. So if I burn 1,000 calories, my body might only biologically need me to eat back, say, 500 of them.
Right?
But when I finish a long run, I feel like I could easily eat 3,000 calories. Why is there such a massive disconnect?
The disconnect happens because your hunger signals are essentially overreacting. Your body is sending panic signals, urging you to consume high-calorie, hyperpalatable foods as quickly as possible.
Because it thinks there's a famine.
Exactly. But biologically, you don't actually need to eat back every single calorie to recover because your body is remarkably efficient at adapting.
Adapting how?
When you burn a massive amount of calories, your body lowers its resting metabolic rate slightly for the rest of the day. You naturally fidget less, you sit down more heavily, you take the elevator instead of the stairs.
Oh, I totally do that.
Yeah.
I become a couch potato after a long run.
Right. Your body compensates by reducing your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. So the hunger sensation you feel is very real, but the sheer volume of food that hunger demands is a severe overreaction by your survival systems.
Okay, that makes sense. But what is happening on a cellular level to drive those specific cravings? Like, why do I want a massive bowl of pasta and a sleeve of cookies instead of a plain chicken breast? What are insulin and glucagon doing during all of this?
This is the chemical root of those cravings. During your run, your insulin levels decrease. Insulin is a storage hormone, and while you're running, you don't want to store energy, you need to actively use it.
Makes sense. Keep the energy flowing.
Conversely, a hormone called glucagon increases. Glucagon acts like an emergency responder. It tells your liver to release stored sugar into your bloodstream, and it tells your fat cells to release fatty acids for fuel.
So glucagon is breaking you down to keep you fueled.
Yes, it is a catabolic state, a state of breakdown. This reciprocal shift of low insulin and high glucagon keeps you alive and moving on the trail.
But then you stop.
But the moment you stop running, this extreme catabolic state leaves your body desperate for quick, easy to digest comfort foods. It wants simple sugars to rapidly reverse the breakdown process and spike your insulin back up. That is why you want the cookies.
Okay, so the picture is clear. The biological alarms are blaring. The ghrelin is surging. The glycogen battery is at 1%. The insulin is rock bottom. And the brain is demanding a massive overcompensation of calories.
It's a perfect storm.
So the ultimate question for the new ultra runner is, how do we systematically turn these alarms off without just consuming 1,000 empty calories of potato chips?
That is the million-dollar question.
This brings us to the practical application of this deep dive. Let's explore the top 10 strategic ways to stop overeating, moving from the problem into the actionable solutions. And we're going to group these strategies logically, starting with what you do before you even take your running shoes off.
Right. Number one on our list starts with preempting the crash entirely. The absolute best way to stop post-run hunger actually happens during the run. We're talking about intra-run fueling.
This makes so much sense when you think about the smartphone battery analogy. Don't let it hit 1%. Keep it plugged in while you use it.
Exactly. For a new ultra runner, you should aim to consume 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour, starting after you hit the 45-minute mark of your run.
And 30 to 60 grams, that's what, like 1 or 2 standard energy gels?
Yeah, but 1 or 2 gels, or maybe some chews. Now, modern endurance science, what leading coaches call the high carb revolution, is pushing elite athletes to consume 90 or even 120 grams of carbs per hour.
Which is insane to think about digesting while running.
It is. And for a beginner whose gut isn't trained for that volume, hitting that 30 to 60 gram window is critical. It prevents extreme glycogen depletion. You're essentially putting a floor on how low your biological battery can drop.
So you're catching it before it flatlines.
Yes. By keeping those carbs trickling in, you dramatically blunt that massive ghrelin spike that happens after the run.
So you finished the run. You fueled adequately. What is the very first thing the runner should do? Because this next concept absolutely blew my mind when I read the sources. Dehydration literally masquerades as hunger in the human brain.
It does, and it's a profound trick of human evolution. This is number 2, the hydrate first rule. The brain's hypothalamus is the control center for both your thirst and your hunger signals.
So they live in the same house, basically.
Exactly. When you are severely dehydrated after a long run, those neural pathways overlap and cross wires. Your brain knows you have a deficit and needs something to restore homeostasis. But it often misinterprets that need for hydration as hunger specifically, a craving for salty, watery foods.
Let's expand on this because it's so important for a beginner to understand. Why would the brain confuse water and food?
Think about our hunter-gatherer ancestors. If water was scarce, how did they hydrate?
They ate fruit, I guess.
Right, they eat water-rich foods, fruits, tubers, vegetation. So our brains evolved to trigger a hunger response when we are dehydrated as a backup mechanism to get fluids.
That is so clever.
It is. But in the modern world, this means after a sweaty run, your brain makes you feel ravenously hungry. But what you actually need is just a glass of water.
Which leads to our first major post-run rule. Before you eat solid food, drink 16 to 24 ounces of fluid immediately post-run. Give it 15 minutes.
Just sit with it.
And I know it sounds too simple to be true, but you will often find that the intense urgency of the hunger drops by 20 to 30% just by rehydrating the system.
And crucial point here, you can't just drink plain water. You have to balance your electrolytes, which is our third key strategy.
Yes, the electrolytes.
What's fascinating here is how an imbalance of sodium, specifically, tricks the brain into generating false hunger cues. When you sweat, you lose significant amounts of sodium.
Right. We've all seen the white salt crust on our shirts after a summer run.
Exactly. If you replace the water you lost, but you don't replace the sodium, your blood sodium concentration drops dangerously low.
And the body senses that drop.
Immediately. Your body recognizes the sodium deficit and triggers an intense, overwhelming craving for salt. But in our modern food environment, we don't naturally crave a raw salt lick, do we?
No, we crave a bag of tortilla chips or French fries or a massive slice of pizza.
Precisely. You are interpreting the physiological need for a specific zero-calorie mineral as an overwhelming appetite for high-calorie junk food.
Wow.
If you replenish your sodium immediately with an electrolyte drink, that craving for a bag of chips often vanishes completely.
That is such a powerful reframe. You aren't lacking willpower, you're just lacking salt. And speaking of minerals, that brings us to number 4. The BUBS Naturals research highlights another critical player in this equation, magnesium. They call it the metabolic maestro.
And rightfully so. Magnesium is a cofactor in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the human body.
300.
Yeah, that includes ATP production, which is the creation of raw cellular energy, and crucially, the regulation of insulin sensitivity.
Okay, so how does that relate to hunger?
Well, if your magnesium levels are depleted from miles of sweating and muscle contraction, your cells actually struggle to utilize glucose effectively. Your blood sugar crashes.
And when blood sugar crashes, the brain hits the panic button.
Right. You want sugar, and you want it immediately. You aren't reaching for broccoli, you were reaching for a donut.
Exactly.
Depleted magnesium leads directly to intense, uncontrollable sugar cravings. Ensuring you have adequate magnesium in your diet stabilizes that blood glucose, and stops the craving at the source.
Okay, so we've fueled during the run, we drank our 24 ounces of water, and we replaced our sodium and magnesium. Now we get into the actual timing of eating. The sources outline a very specific two-step recovery timeline. Let's start with strategy number 5, the 30-minute recovery window.
Yes. The moment you stop running, your muscle cells are uniquely highly sensitive to insulin. Think of the cells like dry sponges.
Oh, I like that visual.
They are completely open and ready to absorb glucose rapidly to rebuild that depleted glycogen. To take advantage of this, within 30 minutes of finishing your run, you need to consume a small recovery snack. The ideal ratio is 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 carbohydrates to protein.
Let's break that down into practical math for the listener. What does a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio actually look like?
Scientifically, it means aiming for about 1.2 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of your body weight, paired with 0.3 to 0.4 grams of protein per kilogram.
But practically speaking, if I just finished a grueling hot run, I probably have that exercise-induced anorexia we talked about earlier. The thought of chewing a solid sandwich makes me feel nauseous. How do I hit those numbers?
This is where liquid nutrition becomes your best friend. A protein smoothie, a glass of chocolate milk, or a specialized recovery shake.
So drink your calories.
Yes, liquid nutrition bypasses the need for heavy, energy-intensive stomach digestion, but it still perfectly hits that 30-minute metabolic window to start the repair process.
Okay, so I finish my run, I drink my water, and at minute 20, I drink my chocolate milk. Now I feel a little better, my stomach is settling, and the runner is probably thinking, great, now I can order that massive pizza I've been dreaming about for the last 3 hours. But the sources say no. This brings us to the second step of the timeline, our 6th strategy, the 90-minute stabilization protocol.
Yes, after you have that 30-minute liquid snack, you wait. You deliberately wait 90 minutes before eating a full, massive meal.
I can hear new runners screaming at their speakers right now. Wait 90 minutes? Why?
Because you need time to allow that massive ghrelin hormone wave to crash. Remember, post-run, your hunger hormone is peaking.
Right.
If you sit down to a massive all-you-can-eat buffet 45 minutes after your run, your brain is still in a state of hormonal panic. You will ravenously panic, eat thousands of calories before your stomach's stretch receptors even have a chance to send the signal to your brain that you are full.
And how long does that stretch signal take?
It takes about 20 minutes to register, and in 20 minutes of panic eating, you can consume an astronomical amount of food.
So the liquid snack acts as a bridge.
Exactly. The 30-minute snack stabilizes your blood sugar and begins the muscle repair. The 90-minute wait allows your nervous system to fully enter the parasympathetic state, and your hormones return to a stable baseline.
Which means you eat like a normal human.
Yes.
Huh.
When you finally sit down to eat your actual meal, 90 minutes later, you can do it calmly, mindfully, and in tune with your actual caloric needs, rather than eating out of metabolic terror.
That is an incredible hack. Uses the liquid nutrition to bridge the hormonal danger zone. Now, once they are ready to eat, we need to talk about overall daily macros, specifically protein, which is number 7. The sources are very clear that standard dietary protein advice does not apply to ultra runners.
Not even close. The sheer amount of muscle damage incurred during an ultramarathon or a massive long run is profound. In that Tortur de Ruhr study we discussed, researchers tracked biological markers of muscle damage, specifically enzymes called CKM and LDH.
And what did they find?
After the race, these markers were elevated 5 to 10 times above normal levels. You were literally tearing your muscle fibers apart.
Ouch.
To repair that structural damage, an endurance athlete needs significantly more protein than the average person. The guidelines suggest 1.2 to 2.0 and sometimes up to 2.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day.
Okay, let me do the math on that. If I'm a 70 kilogram runner, which is about 154 pounds, that means I need roughly 84 to 140, maybe even 175 grams of protein a day.
That's right.
That is a massive amount of protein, but I shouldn't just sit down and eat one giant 150 gram steak dinner to hit that goal, right? Because I feel like my stomach would explode.
You absolutely shouldn't, because human biology doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Your body can only synthesize a certain amount of protein into muscle tissue in a single sitting.
Like a bottleneck.
Exactly. It's usually around 20 to 30 grams per sitting, depending on the person. If you eat a massive 150 gram steak, the excess protein doesn't build extra muscle. It's just oxidized for energy or excreted.
So what's the solution?
To utilize that high daily protein requirement, you need to drip feed it to your muscles all day long.
Drip feed it. I like that.
You spread it out in 20 to 40 gram doses across 4 or 5 meals and snacks throughout the day. And this serves a dual purpose. Not only does it optimize continuous muscle repair, but protein is the most satiating macronutrient.
It keeps you full.
Right. It takes a long time to digest. It actively suppresses ghrelin, and it keeps you feeling full. By drip feeding protein, you are putting a constant dampener on your hunger levels.
Which flows perfectly into our 8th major strategy, front-loading calories.
Yeah.
This feels like a huge paradigm shift for a lot of people because modern life dictates that we eat a small breakfast, grab a quick salad for lunch while working, and then eat a massive heavy dinner at 7 p.m.
That's the standard, yeah.
But for an ultra runner fighting extreme hunger, that is a recipe for disaster.
It is the absolute worst way an athlete can structure their day. So many runners unintentionally undereat during the daylight hours because they're busy with work or life. But willpower behaves exactly like a muscle. It gets fatigued and depleted over the course of the day.
For sure.
If you are operating on a caloric deficit by 6 p.m., your willpower is gone, your blood sugar is low, and you are going to meet what the sources affectionately call the cookie monster.
The cookie monster, yes. Everyone knows that feeling of standing in the kitchen at 9 p.m. just devouring anything in sight.
To defeat the cookie monster, you have to shift the bulk of your daily calories to your breakfast and your lunch. You need to fuel the work of the day as it happens.
So you eat heavily while the sun is up.
By front-loading a massive nutrient-dense breakfast and a hearty lunch, you keep your blood sugar stable, and you arrive at the evening hours feeling satisfied. You prevent the nighttime binge entirely because you aren't starving.
Now, when we talk about staying full, we have to talk about fiber. But the guidelines offer a very specific strategy here, number 9, called fiber periodization. This is fascinating because every health blog in the world just yells, eat more fiber. But for a runner, it's not that simple.
It's not. Fiber is generally fantastic for satiety because it adds physical bulk to your stomach. It stretches the stomach walls, sending those mechanical stretch signals to the brain that say, I am full.
Right.
But high fiber, right before a massive long run, is a nightmare. It causes extreme gastrointestinal distress, the infamous runner's trots.
We don't need to go into detail on that one.
No, we don't. Your gut cannot process all that roughage while it is bouncing up and down for 4 hours. So the strategy is periodization.
You time your fiber intake like you time your training blocks?
Exactly. You reduce your fiber intake 3 to 5 days before a major race or a massive long run. You switch to simple, easy to digest carbohydrates like white rice, low fiber breads, and peeled potatoes.
Okay, and then after?
Then, 24 to 48 hours after the run is over, you aggressively increase your fiber intake again. You bring back the whole plants, the legumes, the massive salads. That post-run fiber acts like a heavy sponge in your digestive tract, soaking up water and severely dampening the post-race hunger monster.
That is such a smart way to manage the gut. Now, the final strategy on our first list, number 10, to stop overeating, has nothing to do with food at all. It's about cortisol and sleep management. We often forget that running, while healthy, is a massive physical stressor.
It is acute physical trauma, and it elevates your cortisol levels. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone. In the short term, it helps mobilize energy for the run.
But long term,
if cortisol stays chronically elevated because you are underfueling, overtraining, or stressing about life, it aggressively increases your appetite for hyperpalatable, sugary, fatty foods. It also specifically drives your body to store fat around the abdominal region.
And the ultimate way to clear that cortisol is sleep.
Sleep is the only time your body produces significant amounts of human growth hormone. Remember those CKM and LDH markers of muscle damage?
Yeah, the enzymes.
Human growth hormone is what repairs them. If you aren't sleeping, you aren't repairing. Furthermore, just 1 week of restricted sleep completely disrupts the delicate balance of your hunger hormones. Your leptin, which signals fullness, drops, and your ghrelin spikes. You simply cannot out-diet poor sleep hygiene.
Okay, so we've established the strategic foundation. We know to fuel during the run, to hydrate and replace sodium immediately, to use the 30-minute liquid window to bridge the gap to a 90-minute full meal. We know to drink our protein, front-load our calories, periodize our fiber, and prioritize sleep.
That's a solid checklist.
But what actual physical foods should you put in your grocery cart to make this happen? We are moving from abstract macronutrients into the kitchen. Let's look at our second list, the top 10 specific whole foods that satisfy these intense metabolic demands, grouped by how they help your body recover.
And we heavily emphasize whole foods here rather than engineered sports nutrition, because highly processed foods lack the fiber and micronutrient matrix that your body needs to stabilize.
They just cause spikes.
Right. Processed foods cause rapid blood sugar spikes and immediate crashes, which just restarts the hunger cycle.
So let's start with the foods that provide energy and act as what you called speed bumps for digestion. First up, the absolute classic, bananas.
They are a staple for a reason. Bananas provide easily digestible, complex carbohydrates for sustained energy recovery. But more importantly, they are packed with potassium.
And potassium does what exactly?
Potassium is the primary electrolyte located inside your cells. It is critical for cellular communication, transmitting nerve impulses, and initiating muscle contraction.
Oh, wow.
When your potassium levels drop after a sweaty run, you experience profound muscle fatigue and weakness, which the brain often misinterprets as hunger. Replenishing potassium shuts down that false signal.
And if you want even more potassium, you turn to our second food.
Avocados. Yes, avocados actually have more potassium than bananas, but their real superpower for the ultra runner is their fat content. Avocados are loaded with healthy, unsaturated fats.
Which are calorie dense.
Very. Fat is incredibly calorie dense, which helps you chip away at that massive calorie deficit. But crucially, fat slows down gastric emptying.
This is the speed bump concept. I love this visual.
It's exactly like a speed bump.
Yeah.
When you eat carbohydrates alone, they race through your digestive tract, spike your blood sugar, and then crash. When you add fat, like an avocado, it acts as a physical speed bump in the gut.
Slowing everything down.
It slows the absorption of the carbohydrates, providing a steady, even release of energy and preventing the rapid insulin spikes that lead to overeating 2 hours later.
And rounding out the energy category, we have food number 3, sweet potatoes.
A premier source of complex carbohydrates. They provide a slow burn energy release. They are rich in vitamins and fiber, making them perfect for steady glycogen recovery without the roller coaster blood sugar effect you get from refined grains like white pasta or white bread.
Okay, moving from energy to mineral replenishment and gut health. We talked about magnesium being the metabolic maestro. To get it, you need food number 4, spinach and leafy greens.
Spinach is incredibly dense in magnesium. If you are struggling with those intense post-run sugar cravings we discussed earlier, incorporating huge handfuls of spinach into your post-run meals, or even blending it into your 30-minute recovery smoothie, will help stabilize your blood glucose.
So it literally stops the craving at the source.
Exactly. It quiets those cravings at a cellular level.
You can also get a massive magnesium hit from food number 5, pumpkin seeds and nuts.
Pumpkin seeds are a powerhouse combination. They give you healthy fats for the speed bump effect, a solid hit of plant-based protein, and high doses of magnesium.
Nice trifecta.
And they're also extremely energy dense. A small handful provides a lot of calories, which helps you bridge that massive tortilla-level caloric deficit without requiring you to physically eat painful, massive volumes of food.
And for gut health and post-run fiber, the sources recommend food number 6, lentils and beans.
This plays perfectly into the fiber periodization strategy. Once the run is over and your gut has settled, lentils and beans are your best friends. They are high in plant protein and incredibly high in complex fiber. They maintain satiety for hours.
And they help the microbiome, right?
Yes, more importantly, they feed your gut microbiome. Extreme endurance exercise actually causes microscopic damage to the gut lining and alters your gut bacteria. The fiber in beans acts as a prebiotic, nourishing the good bacteria and helping to reduce systemic gut inflammation.
Speaking of inflammation and repair, let's look at the protein sources. The sources heavily highlight food number 7, salmon. Now, I assume that's for the high-quality lean protein, but is there something specific about salmon for a runner whose joints have been pounding the pavement for 15 miles?
It's specifically the omega-3 fatty acids. Salmon provides the lean protein you need to hit those high daily targets, but omega-3s are powerful systemic anti-inflammatories.
Because running just causes so much inflammation.
Massive oxidative stress and inflammation throughout your entire body. Omega-3s help combat that inflammation at a cellular level, reducing delayed onset muscle soreness and helping your body return to a state of homeostasis much faster.
Next on the protein list, number 8, is Greek yogurt.
Greek yogurt is exceptional, particularly for your 30-minute recovery window or as an evening snack. It's very high in protein, but specifically a type of protein called casein.
Casein, right, the slow digesting one.
Exactly. Casein digests very slowly, providing a steady drip feed of amino acids over several hours. Greek yogurt also provides high amounts of calcium. While we typically associate calcium strictly with bone health, Metabolic research indicates that optimal calcium levels actually support healthy fat metabolism and energy regulation.
But if we want to talk about triggering muscle repair, we have to talk about food number 9, eggs. The sources call eggs nature's perfect protein, specifically because they are rich in an amino acid called leucine.
Leucine is critical.
And leucine is the primary molecular trigger for something called the MTO pathway. Okay, let's unpack this. The MTOR pathway sounds like a sci-fi villain. What is that?
It stands for mechanistic target of rapamycin. But you can think of MTOR as the general contractor of a construction site inside your muscles.
Okay, I'm following.
When you run, you tear down the building. You cause micro tears in the muscle fibers. When you finish, the construction crew is standing around, ready to rebuild, but they need the general contractor to give the order to start working.
So MTOR is the boss.
The MTO pathway is that general contractor.
Oh.
But MTOR won't wake up and give the order until it receives a very specific key. That key is the amino acid leucine.
So eggs are handing the key to the contractor.
Exactly. Eggs are incredibly dense in leucine. When you eat eggs, the leucine spikes in your blood. It turns the key in the MTOR ignition. The contractor wakes up, and the biological pathway that initiates muscle protein synthesis roars to life. Without sufficient leucine, the rebuilding process is sluggish.
That is a brilliant analogy. Hand the key to the contractor. And finally, rounding out the whole foods list at number 10, we have cottage cheese or tofu.
Similar to Greek yogurt, cottage cheese is packed with that slow-release casein protein. Tofu is a fantastic, highly digestible plant-based alternative that provides a complete amino acid profile and calcium.
Great for nighttime then.
Yes. Both are perfect for stabilizing energy, and they are ideal choices for that evening snack to keep the Cookie Monster away while you sleep.
Okay, so we have these incredible 10 foods. Let's build a sample daily meal schedule for a long run day so the listener can see how this all fits together in real time.
You start your morning by front-loading your calories. A large breakfast combining complex carbs and protein. For example, 3 eggs for that leucine trigger, cooked with spinach for magnesium, alongside a sweet potato hash.
Then 2 to 3 hours prior to your run, you need to top off the battery. You want 1 to 4 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight. This should be simple, low-fiber carbs. Toast with honey or maple syrup. Keep it easy to digest.
Intra-run. During the effort itself, you are taking in your 30 to 60 grams of carbs per hour. This is where you use your gels, your chews, or even real food if your gut can handle it, like salted boiled potatoes.
Post-run, within 30 minutes, you hit that liquid nutrition window, a protein shake or chocolate milk. It bypasses the nausea, gives you liquid carbs and protein, and bridges the gap.
Then you wait your 90 minutes. Your hormones stabilize. And here's where you sit down for your main meal and introduce the concept of the performance plate.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I want to push back on this performance plate concept.
Oh, but go for it.
The sources say that on an easy rest day, your plate should be 25% carbs, 25% protein, and 50% vegetables. But on a hard, long-run day, the plate shifts completely. It becomes 50% carbohydrates, 25% protein, and only 25% vegetables.
Yes, a big shift.
We are constantly told by mainstream diet culture that carbs are the enemy, and half your plate should always be vegetables. If a runner is trying to lean out for race day, isn't eating a plate that is 50% carbs going to ruin that?
This is where we have to divorce sports nutrition from mainstream diet culture. Diet culture is aimed at sedentary people trying to lose weight. You are an endurance athlete trying to replenish a depleted glycogen tank.
Completely different rules.
Exactly. If you eat a massive pile of broccoli after a 15-mile run, you are going to fill your stomach with low-calorie fiber. You will feel stuffed, but your muscles will remain completely starved of glycogen. You will wake up the next day feeling like you were hit by a truck.
So the veggies actually get in the way.
On those days, yes. You have to reduce the vegetable fiber volume slightly on hard days to make physical room in your stomach for the massive amount of complex carbohydrates, the rice, the potatoes, the quinoa that you desperately need to rebuild your energy stores.
You have to fuel the work. That makes total sense. And then for the evening, to ensure you don't wake up ravenous, you have a small evening snack. A bowl of Greek yogurt with berries or some cottage cheese to drip feed that casein protein while you sleep.
And weaving seamlessly through this entire schedule is your daily electrolyte checklist.
Which is super important.
It is. Hydrate with 16 ounces of water in the morning, consume a high-sodium snack pre-run, Take in fluids and electrolytes continuously interrun, and hit that 16 to 24 ounces of fluid with an electrolyte mix
I'm
immediately
sorry,
post-run.
but you've hit
Okay,
the
we have
time
the
limit for
biology,
this
we have
conversation.
the timelines,
Please
and
start
we
a
have the
new
grocery
chat
list.
to keep the
But
conversation
let's be totally
going.
honest with each other. Eating isn't just a math equation. It's not a spreadsheet. It is heavily, heavily psychological.
Especially when you are deeply fatigued. Fatigue strips away your logical processing and leaves you at the mercy of your impulses.
Exactly. So we have to transition to the mental frameworks required to execute this nutrition plan without developing an unhealthy obsession. We need mindful practices to manage food awareness. Let's dive into our third and final list, the top 10 mindful practices, starting with how to test if you are actually hungry. Practice number 1, the apple test.
The apple test is brilliantly simple. When a sudden, intense craving strikes, you pause and ask yourself, would I eat a plain raw apple right now? Or a plain unseasoned piece of chicken?
Be honest with yourself.
Right. If the answer is yes, you are experiencing real physiological hunger. Your body genuinely needs fuel and you should eat. If the answer is no, you wouldn't touch an apple, you just really, really want a warm chocolate chip cookie or a bag of salty chips, it is highly likely an emotional craving, a symptom of boredom, or a masked dehydration signal.
I love the concept, but let me ask a relatable question on behalf of the exhausted beginner. When I am completely wrecked after a 4-hour trail run, doing cognitive tests like the apple test sounds like a lot of mental work. I don't want to interrogate myself. What is the absolute simplest, most brain-dead way to figure out if I'm actually hungry or just thirsty?
The simplest, most foolproof method is mindful practice number 2, the 15-minute timing test.
Tell me more.
If you feel a sudden pang of hunger outside of your normal meal times, do not immediately open the pantry. Instead, drink a large glass of water. Then, look at the clock and wait exactly 15 to 20 minutes. Go do something else.
Just distract yourself.
Yes, because the neural pathways for thirst and hunger overlap in the hypothalamus. Giving your body 20 minutes to physically process the hydration will clear the neurological noise. If 20 minutes pass and you are still hungry, it's real hunger. Go eat.
And if it goes away?
If the craving vanishes, you are just dehydrated. It's a core habit every beginner should adopt.
Drink water, wait 20 minutes. Perfect. Another tool for the mental toolkit, practice number 3, is understanding the hunger satiety scale.
This is a way to tune into your body's physical sensations. It's a scale from 1 to 10. 1 is starving, weak, dizzy, battery at 0. 10 is nauseous, Thanksgiving dinner, uncomfortably stuffed.
The food coma level.
Exactly. You want to teach yourself to live in the blue zone, which is levels 4 to 7. You should start eating when you feel slightly hungry around a 4. And you should actively stop eating when you feel satisfied, but not stuffed around a 7. It takes practice to listen to those subtle signals.
And listening to those signals requires our 4th strategy, removing distractions.
We are all guilty of this. Eating while scrolling social media on our phones or eating dinner while watching TV.
Guilty as charged.
But doing this hijacks your attention. It physically prevents your brain from accurately processing those mechanical stretch signals coming from your stomach. You can easily eat past a level 7 on the satiety scale, straight to a level 10, simply because your brain was focused on a screen instead of your digestion.
So mindful eating means actually paying attention to the food.
If you want to manage extreme hunger, you need to sit at a table, put the phone in another room, chew your food, and actually experience the meal.
The next major psychological hurdle endurance athletes face is the mindset of restriction. Mindful practice number 5 advocates for a concept called addition, not restriction.
Endurance running naturally attracts type A perfectionists, and perfectionists often try to eat perfectly clean by drastically restricting bad foods. But extreme psychological restriction almost always leads to extreme, uncontrollable binging.
The pendulum swings back.
Yes, you have to shift your mindset. Instead of standing in the kitchen saying, I can't eat junk food, I can't have sugar, I can't have carbs, you flip the script. You ask yourself, what nutrient-dense foods can I add to this meal to help my body recover?
Focus on abundance.
Exactly. Add a handful of spinach to your eggs. Add a scoop of berries to your yogurt. Add a side of sweet potatoes to your chicken. When you focus on adding massive amounts of helpful nutrients, you naturally crowd out the less helpful foods without feeling deprived.
Which leads right into the next concept, number 6. Helpful versus not helpful. We need to stop labeling foods as morally good or morally bad.
A slice of pizza is not inherently evil. A kale salad is not inherently saintly. Food does not have moral value.
Yeah.
You need to reframe foods contextually based on what your body needs in that specific moment.
Right.
A massive high-fiber kale salad 10 minutes before a track workout is not helpful. It will ruin your workout. But a handful of pure sugar gummy bears at mile 15 of a long run is incredibly helpful. Remove the heavy moral weight from your food choices and view them as tools for the job at hand.
I think this next point, number 7, is going to resonate with anyone preparing for their first big race. We have to talk about managing the taper.
The taper is the 1 to 3 weeks before race day where you significantly drop your running volume to rest your legs. And new runners absolutely panic during the taper.
Because they're running less.
Right. They look at their watch, they see they're running 50% fewer miles, and their brain says, I'm running less, so I need to immediately eat less, or I'm going to gain 5 pounds before race day. So they restrict their food.
But that's a massive mistake, isn't it?
It's a catastrophic mistake. While your external mileage has dropped, internally, your body is doing intense microscopic repair work during the taper. It is healing all the accumulated muscle damage from months of training, and it is super compensating its glycogen store so you have maximum energy on race day.
It's working overtime on the inside.
Yes. That internal repair process requires calories. If you restrict your food during the taper out of fear, you interrupt the healing process and you arrive at the start line underfueled, overstressed, and feeling flat. You must honor your appetite during the taper.
Now, in the modern era, everyone uses apps to track their food. Practice number 8 has a very specific stance on this. Use apps as guides, not traps.
Calorie and macronutrient tracking apps like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer are fantastic educational tools. It's highly beneficial to use them for a week or two to learn what 100 grams of protein actually looks like on a plate, or to realize how many carbs are in a potato.
Just for data collection.
But if tracking every single almond you eat begins to cause you anxiety, or if you refuse to eat an apple because it doesn't fit your daily macro spreadsheet, the app has become a trap. Delete it immediately. Use them to learn the broad patterns of your diet, but do not let them rule your life.
Let's get into the deep neuroscience for a second. Practice number 9 from the behavioral psychology sources talks about rewiring reward pathways. They mention something called reward deficiency syndrome. This is fascinating because it explains why food feels so overwhelmingly comforting after a run.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a critical piece of the puzzle. Modern life is inherently stressful. Add the intense chronic physical stress of ultramarathon training on top of your job, your commute, and your family, and your brain responds to that chronic stress by downregulating your dopamine receptors, specifically the D2 receptors.
So you literally deplete your brain's ability to feel pleasure and reward.
Yes, your brain becomes starved for a reward sensation, and what provides the fastest, most potent dopamine hit legally available.
Hyperpalatable foods.
Exactly. A combination of refined sugar, fat, and salt. When you reach for a sleeve of cookies after a stressful run, it is not a lack of willpower, it is a neurochemical deficit. Your brain is desperately seeking dopamine.
So my brain wants a cookie for the dopamine hit, not because it actually needs the calories in the cookie. How do we break that cycle?
You have to rewire your reward pathways, just to decouple the concept of reward from the consumption of calories. You need to actively seek out non-food sources of dopamine to fulfill that neurochemical need.
Like what, for example?
It could be deep social connection with a friend, taking a hot Epsom salt bath, getting a sports massage, or listening to your favorite music. You have to give your brain the reward it is craving through an avenue that doesn't involve eating a pizza. Mindful eating isn't just a diet tip. It is a crucial tool for long-term mental health.
Which brings us to our final mindful practice, number 10. The overarching philosophy of this entire deep dive. Food is fuel, and eating is an act of discipline.
There is a very toxic old-school mindset in some endurance communities that eating is a form of weakness, that pushing through a run fasted makes you tougher, or gritting your teeth through post-run hunger makes you a better athlete.
Yeah, the sufferfest mentality.
It doesn't work. Underfueling is the easiest thing in the world. It takes zero planning, zero effort, and zero discipline to just starve yourself. But fueling properly, hitting your 140 grams of protein every day, pre-planning your 30-minute recovery shake.
That's the hard part.
It is. Carrying your gels and forcing yourself to eat them at mile 10 when you feel slightly nauseous, that takes intense focus. Eating enough and eating the right things at the right times is an active expression of your training discipline.
Wow. Okay, let's bring all of this incredible information together. We set out today to decode the chaos of post-run hunger, that dreaded runger. And the mission for the new ultra runner is clear.
It's all about proactive management.
First, preempt the crash. Fuel actively during your run with 30 to 60 grams of carbs an hour to prevent the biological battery from hitting 1%. Second, hydrate immediately after you finish with 16 to 24 ounces of fluid to turn off the false dehydration-induced hunger alarms.
Hydrate first, always.
Third, respect the timeline. Hit the 30-minute window with liquid nutrition to jumpstart recovery, and then employ the 90-minute wait protocol to let your massive grill and wave crash before you eat a stabilized full meal.
Bridging the gap.
We know we need to prioritize daily protein, drip feeding it to hit those massive 1.2 to 2.5 gram per kilogram targets, waking up the mTOR pathway with leucine-rich foods like eggs. We need to replenish our electrolytes, specifically sodium to curb junk food cravings, and magnesium from leafy greens and pumpkin seeds to stabilize blood sugar.
Keep the maestro happy.
And finally, we must use mindful practices. We use the 15-minute water test to verify true hunger. We shift to an abundance mindset, adding nutrients rather than restricting them. We decouple our dopamine rewards from our food, and we view our fueling strategy as a core pillar of our training discipline.
It's a complete shift in how you approach your body.
So what does this all mean? After unpacking all the biology, all the grocery lists, and all the psychology, what is the big takeaway for the athlete lacing up their shoes tomorrow?
It means a fundamental shift in perspective. We spend so much of our time fighting our hunger. We view it as an enemy to be defeated, a sign of personal weakness, or just an annoying, frustrating hurdle standing between us and our fitness goals.
It's a constant battle.
But what if we completely flip that script? What if we started viewing our intense post-run hunger as a deeply intelligent, remarkably complex ancient communication system?
I love that.
Your body is talking to you. If you learn to speak its language, if you can fluently translate a sudden craving for salty tortilla chips as a biological need for sodium, or a craving for a massive soda as a desperate plea for hydration, or a bottomless pit in your stomach as a need for complex glycogen recovery and a magnesium deficit, you transform your relationship with your body.
You stop fighting.
You stop fighting yourself. You don't just become a more efficient, better fueled ultra runner. You become entirely in tune with the beautiful, brilliant biology of your own survival.
You learn to read the signals of your own appetite. No more confusion, no more muddy waters, just you working in perfect partnership with the biology that keeps you moving forward. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into endurance nutrition. Until next time, keep fueling the journey. For, 14 hours straight.
Oh man, just the thought of it.
Right, the sunset hours ago. You are out there navigating this rocky, terrible trail by just the weak little beam of a headlamp.
Yeah.
And you have already burned through something like 16,000 calories.
Which is just a staggering number to even comprehend.
It's insane. And your body, in this act of sheer panic desperation, has basically diverted almost all the blood away from your stomach just to keep your legs moving.
Because it's purely in survival mode at that point.
Exactly. And because your stomach is completely deprived of oxygen, the actual lining of your gut has started to break down.
Yep, literally breaking apart.
So bacterial toxins are leaking from your intestines directly into your bloodstream. You are nauseous, you are freezing, and the craziest part, you still have 50 miles left to run.
Yeah, welcome to the biological dumpster fire of the ultra marathon.
It is entirely a dumpster fire. And that's our mission for today. Welcome to the deep dive. We are exploring this exact crisis, the extreme biological frontier of ultra running nutrition.
It's such a fascinating topic because we tend to view endurance sports as, these beautiful metaphors for the human spirit.
Right, conjuring the impossible.
Exactly. But on a strict physiological level, you are watching an organism intentionally trigger a cascading energetic crisis.
And we want to look at exactly how the human body reacts, how it adapts, and honestly, how it sometimes just completely fails when subjected to the sheer trauma of running distances that, they were historically meant for horses.
Yeah, humans were not designed for 100-mile runs without some serious consequences.
Right, totally. So if you are listening to this right now, whether you're trying to balance a busy 9-to-5 job while marathon training, or maybe you're gearing up for your very first 50K trail race.
Or frankly, if you are just insanely curious about where the absolute limits of the human machine actually lie.
Yeah, this deep dive is going to break down exactly how to fuel, how to heal, and how to protect your body.
And we have an incredible stack of clinical data to pull from today.
We do. We're looking at metabolic research from the current biology journal.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
We also have physiological data from the International Journal of Sports Physiology and Performance.
Plus, we've got some really on-the-ground practical insights from expert sports dietitians like Claire Shorenstein.
Right, because we need to synthesize all of this high-level science to find the actual science-backed shortcut to fueling extreme endurance.
And recovering properly without losing your mind to that insane post-race hunger, which we will definitely talk about.
Oh, absolutely. And we also really need to identify the dangerous culture of disordered eating that unfortunately kind of hides in plain sight within the ultra community.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. But before we even touch on what you should be eating, we have to look at the sheer scale of the fire that you're throwing that food into.
Right, the energetic demand.
Because usually when people talk about endurance nutrition, they treat it like simple math,
Calories in, calories out.
Exactly. You burn 500 calories on a run, you eat a protein bar, the ledger balances out.
But an ultra marathon completely destroys that math.
It really does. My favorite way to think about it is...
And just flooring the gas pedal for 24 hours straight.
Yes. Eventually, the engine isn't just burning fuel, it literally starts melting its own components.
Which is a perfect analogy, because engines have functional mechanical limits, and so does human metabolism.
What's fascinating here is that researchers actually have a name for this, right?
Yeah, we call this the metabolic ceiling. There is a hard, strict biological cap on what the human engine can output before it fundamentally breaks down.
So let's talk about the data, because I'm looking at this study from Current Biology, and it's authored by a biological anthropologist named Drew Best.
Great paper.
The numbers are just staggering.
Strict laboratory setting.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the athletes drink water that contains specific non-radioactive isotopes of hydrogen and oxygen.
Okay.
And as their bodies burn energy and produce carbon dioxide, the researchers can actually track the elimination rates of these exact isotopes in their urine over several weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it provides an incredibly precise, real-world measurement of exactly how many calories someone is burning while they're actually out on the trail.
Instead of being, stuck on a treadmill in a lab hooked up to tubes and masks.
Exactly. It's real-world data.
And what those isotopes revealed about short-term energy burn is almost unbelievable.
It really is.
In short bursts, if they're doing a single 100-mile race, these athletes were burning up to 7 times their basal metabolic rate.
7 times.
Let's put that in perspective for a second. BMR, basal metabolic rate, is the baseline energy your body needs just to exist, right?
Yeah, if you were literally lying in a coma, doing nothing but breathing and keeping your heart pumping, that's your BMR.
So for most adults, that's somewhere around 1,500 to maybe 2,000 calories a day.
Right. So hitting 7 times your BMR means a single race is incinerating between 13,000 and 16,000 calories.
That is insane. I mean, the researchers noted one specific athlete in the Western States 100 who expended over 16,100 calories in just over 14 hours.
Yeah, let's do the math on that.
Yeah?
That means they were burning almost 19 calories every single minute.
For 14 hours straight.
Yeah. But here is the massive catch, and this is where the current biology study completely shifts our understanding of human limits.
Right, because you can burn 7 times your DMR for a day. Maybe 2 days if you're really pushing it.
But you absolutely cannot do that long term.
No. When they looked at these athletes over weeks and months of sustained extreme endurance, their energy expenditure dramatically leveled off.
It hit a wall.
It plateaued at exactly 2.5 times their BMR.
And that 2.5 times BMR is the hard human metabolic ceiling.
It doesn't matter what you do, right?
Exactly. It does not matter if you are pulling a sled across Antarctica or racing the Tour de France or running across the Sahara Desert. You cannot sustainably burn more than 2.5 times your BMR over a long period.
So my first instinct when I hear about a limit like that is to just ask, well, why not just train harder?
Right, just push through it.
Yeah, like if I increase my VO2 max or if I build more slow twitch muscle fibers, if I just become a stronger, more elite athlete, shouldn't I be able to raise that ceiling?
It's such a logical question, but it's highly counterintuitive. Because no, you can't.
Why not? Is it just my leg muscles eventually giving out?
No, the limitation isn't actually at the cellular level of the muscle at all. The ceiling exists entirely because of a gastrointestinal bottleneck. The gut, yes. Your gut is the limiting factor of human endurance. The human digestive tract physically cannot digest, absorb, and transport nutrients fast enough to keep up with an expenditure higher than 2.5 times your BMR.
Oh my gosh, so it's a plumbing issue.
It is literally a plumbing issue. The pipes can only process so much fuel per hour, regardless of how insanely strong your legs are.
Which totally explains why you see these incredibly fit professional runners completely hit the wall and just collapse at mile 70.
Exactly.
It's not a lack of willpower. Their plumbing literally backed up and they ran out of systemic fuel.
Precisely. And this is why you cannot outtrain your own biology.
Yeah.
If you chronically push past that 2.5 ceiling through sheer stubbornness, you hit a physiological wall known as overtraining syndrome.
And what happens then?
Well, because your gut cannot absorb enough calories to replace what you're burning, your body is faced with a massive, life-threatening energy deficit.
Okay.
But your brain and your heart, they still need energy to survive. So the body enters a highly catabolic state.
Meaning it starts eating itself.
Basically, yeah. It begins cannibalizing its own structural tissues. It breaks down muscle proteins. It breaks down bone, just to keep the vital organs functioning.
Wow. So the body literally eats its own skeleton to keep you moving forward.
It does, which makes the actual process of eating out on the trail incredibly high stakes.
Yeah, no kidding. Because of this strict gastrointestinal bottleneck, putting fuel back into the tank requires a really strategic, almost mathematical approach.
You can't just eat a massive double cheeseburger whenever you feel hungry.
Because the stomach can only process that slow drip feed of calories while you are exercising.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. If getting calories in is so incredibly hard and the gut is this massive bottleneck, why aren't runners just completely bypassing solid food?
Oh, that's a great question.
Like, why not exclusively use pure liquid sugar gels for 24 hours straight? They're basically pre-digested, right? They absorb instantly.
They do.
So why do we see people at these aid stations at 2 a.m. eating mashed potatoes and, like, turkey sandwiches?
Well, that transition from simple sugars to whole foods comes down to a physiological roadblock known as palate fatigue,
Right.
which we are definitely going to get into.
Right.
But to actually understand how to fuel the race and manage that gastrointestinal bottleneck, we have to start long before the starting gun even fires.
Preparation.
Exactly. You have to fill the tank to the absolute brim, which brings us to the actual science of carb loading.
Yeah, carb loading. It's a term that gets thrown around at literally every marathon expo.
Oh, totally.
And it's usually just an excuse for people to eat a giant bowl of fettuccine Alfredo the night before the race.
Which is usually a terrible idea, by the way.
Right. But sports dietitian Claire Shorenstein provides some incredibly rigorous math for this, doesn't she?
She does. The clinical target for elite carb loading is actually 10 to 12 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight. And that's for 36 to 48 hours prior to the event.
Okay, let's do that math for just a normal person. Let's say a 150-pound runner.
All right, so that's about 68 kilograms. Hitting 12 grams per kilogram means consuming over 800 grams of carbohydrates in a single day.
800 grams.
Yeah. That is the equivalent of eating roughly 18 cups of cooked pasta,
Oh my gosh.
or about 30 large bananas in just 24 hours.
Okay, if you are an amateur runner, right, you're trying to squeeze in a race weekend around your job, forcing down 18 cups of pasta while sitting in your cubicle on a Friday afternoon isn't just impractical.
No, it's terrible.
It's going to leave you feeling incredibly bloated and sick.
It will completely backfire. You'll feel awful. So a much more realistic, non-professional adjustment, which is great for people balancing training with everyday life demands, is targeting 8 grams per kilogram.
Okay, 8 grams.
Yeah, but you do it for 3 days prior to the race, instead of trying to cram 12 grams in a single 24-hour window.
So if you're managing a normal workday, you basically systematically weave easy-to-digest carbs into your existing routine.
Exactly. You divide that total number across 3 meals and 3 snacks.
So what does that look like? You might add a plain bagel with honey to your normal breakfast.
Yep.
Instead of drinking water at your desk, you're sipping on apple juice or a sports drink throughout the day.
Right. Liquid carbs are huge here.
You have a rice-heavy dish for lunch, and you snack on pretzels in the afternoon.
Perfect.
And the key here, which I think people always mess up, is that these need to be low-fiber, low-fat carbohydrates.
That is crucial. That is the biggest mistake people make. The goal of carb loading isn't general health, okay? It's not about eating a balanced diet. It's strictly about maximizing glycogen storage.
Right, and glycogen is just the stored form of glucose in your liver and your muscles.
Exactly. High fiber foods like whole wheat pasta or massive kale salads,
Yeah.
they sit in the gut. They draw water into the intestines, which causes massive bloating.
Which you don't want on race morning.
Definitely not. And high-fat foods just slow down gastric emptying. So you want simple, almost refined carbs that quickly top off those glycogen stores without leaving a heavy residue in your digestive tract when you wake up.
Okay, so the tank is topped off, the liver is packed with glycogen, you've had your apple juice and pretzels,
You're ready to go.
the starting gun goes off. Now you are on the clock, and the fueling strategy shifts dramatically based on how long you've been running.
It does.
The sources lay out a really brilliant, simple guide for fueling correctly during races of different lengths. And this perfectly answers my earlier question about why runners stop eating sugar gels.
Right. So for a race lasting anywhere from 0 to 4 hours, which covers a standard marathon for a lot of everyday runners,
Yeah.
you can rely almost entirely on sweet, fast-absorbing liquids and gels. The clinical target here is consuming 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrates per hour.
Which is roughly 2 to 3 standard energy gels every 60 minutes, right?
Exactly. And some highly trained elite athletes are actually pushing that to 120 grams per hour now.
Wow, that's a lot of sugar.
It is. They use a very specific 2-to-1 ratio of glucose to fructose, which basically utilizes different intestinal transporters so they can absorb more.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, but for most people, 60 to 90 grams is the absolute sweet spot. And in that 0 to 4 hour window, your palate can easily handle the intense syrupy sweetness of those gel products.
But then we cross the 4-hour mark.
Yep, the danger zone.
We enter the 4 to 10 hour window of an ultramarathon, and your body just starts staging a total rebellion against sugar.
This is where palate fatigue, or what some people call sweet fatigue, really kicks in.
And this is biological, right?
It is. It's actually a fascinating neurological adaptation. As the physical trauma of the sustained running effort builds up, the brain begins to condition an aversion to sweetness.
Really? Why?
Because it subconsciously associates that intense sugary flavor with the pain and the stress of the race.
Oh, what?
Yeah. The olfactory and gustatory receptors effectively downregulate. So if you try to force down a, vanilla marshmallow flavored gel at hour 6, your gag reflex might physically reject it.
I've literally seen that happen to people on the trail.
Yeah. So athletes transition to chewable energy bars, energy chews, and salty sweet combinations just to break that sensory monotony.
And then when you cross the 10-hour threshold, when you are deep in the woods, it's nighttime, you're running 50 or 100 miles,
Everything changes again.
the strategy shifts entirely to real, savory whole foods, which explains why ultramarathon aid stations look like these strange woodland picnics at 3 in the morning.
Exactly. The body is desperately craving sodium to replace what you've lost through sweating.
Right.
It's craving texture because, frankly, your jaw muscles are fatigued from just slurping liquids all day. And it needs complex starches that digest a bit slower to provide a steady release of energy without spiking your blood sugar quite so aggressively. Yeah.
And the beauty of this is that you do not have to spend hundreds of dollars on highly engineered, fancy sports nutrition for these long hauls.
No, real food works incredibly well.
The sources gave us a list of 5 highly effective, budget-friendly meal prep snacks that are super easy to carry and hit all the right metabolic notes for maintaining carb intake.
Yeah, I love these. Number 1 is salty sweet potato puree in a reusable baby food pouch.
That's brilliant.
It is. Sweet potatoes are incredible complex carbohydrates, and they are absolutely loaded with potassium to prevent cramping.
Number 2 is the absolute classic, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
Yes.
but specifically on cheap white bread.
Right. Again, white bread has almost zero fiber, so the gut doesn't have to work hard at all to break it down.
Number 3 is onigiri, which are those Japanese white rice balls.
Those are fantastic. You can flavor them with a little bit of soy sauce for the sodium or even maple syrup for extra glucose. White rice is notoriously gentle on a distressed stomach.
Number 4 is literally just simple salted pretzels, pure starch and salt.
Keeps it simple.
And number 5 is a hummus and avocado wrap on a flour tortilla.
Which provides a phenomenal texture change. And it introduces some healthy fats and savory flavors right when your brain is completely rejecting anything sugary.
Now, mentioning peanut butter and hummus brings up a highly debated macronutrient in endurance sports.
Protein.
Yes, protein, because we know carbs are the primary fuel, obviously. But is protein king here? Is it actually doing anything for you mid-race?
Well, it depends. If you are running for less than 4 hours, protein during the race is largely unnecessary.
Really?
Yeah, and it can actually slow down the absorption of your carbohydrates, which is bad.
Oh, interesting.
But for races extending past that 10-hour mark, protein becomes biologically essential, though not for the reason most people think.
Okay, so it's not about building muscle on the trail.
No, absolutely not. It's about preventing central fatigue.
Central fatigue meaning your brain basically shutting you down.
Exactly. When you run for a dozen hours, your body eventually starts breaking down circulating amino acids for energy. When certain amino acids, specifically branched-chain amino acids, drop too low in your bloodstream, it changes the ratio of tryptophan entering your brain.
Wait, tryptophan, like the turkey at Thanksgiving thing that makes you sleepy?
Yes, exactly. More tryptophan crosses the blood-brain barrier, which then converts to serotonin. And suddenly, your central nervous system gets flooded with the signal, we are exhausted, it's time to go to sleep.
Wow, so your brain literally sedates you.
Yes. To combat this, the clinical recommendation is to aim for 5 to 10 grams of protein per hour during these massive multi-hour efforts.
Which is where the peanut butter in your sandwich comes in.
Right, or taking a few bites of a salted turkey or ham wrap. It feeds those amino acids back into the bloodstream, which literally prevents the brain from signaling total exhaustion to the muscles.
Okay, so we've mapped out the perfect fueling plan. We've got the carb loading, the gels, the budget-friendly rice balls, and the protein wraps.
It's a solid plan.
But there is a massive elephant in the room here.
The gut shutting down.
Right. Absolutely none of this meticulous planning matters if your stomach completely shuts down and rejects everything at mile 50.
Which unfortunately happens to a staggering percentage of ultra runners. Gastrointestinal distress is actually the number one reason athletes DNF or did not finish these races.
So let's go back to that horrifying scene we painted at the very beginning of the show. I want to understand exactly what is happening to the gut when it fails.
Sure.
Because think of your bloodstream as a massive highway system. When you are just sitting at home on the couch, a huge volume of traffic, your blood is flowing smoothly to your stomach and intestines to digest your meals.
Right, the rest and digest phase.
But when you start running, the body views locomotion as the ultimate priority for survival.
Right.
So it puts up a massive detour sign on the highway. It diverts almost all the traffic away from your stomach and sends it straight to your working leg muscles to keep them firing, and to your skin so you can sweat and cool your core temperature.
And the clinical term for this massive blood diversion is splanchnic hypoperfusion.
Splanchnic hypoperfusion.
Yep. And we aren't just talking about a minor decrease in blood flow. During high-intensity running, blood flow to the gut can drop by up to 80%.
80%?
Yes. Your stomach and your intestines are suddenly operating in a highly ischemic, oxygen-deprived environment. The tissues are literally suffocating.
And it's not just a lack of oxygen either, right? Because running is fundamentally a high-impact sport.
Right.
You are repeatedly launching yourself into the air and crashing back down onto the dirt thousands and thousands of times.
So that mechanical jostling violently shakes your internal organs.
Yeah.
And when you combine this severe mechanical stress with the fact that the intestinal cells are suffocating from the hypoperfusion, the tight junctions between the cells in your gut lining begin to break apart.
The barrier just fails.
The barrier fails. This is what we refer to clinically as leaky gut.
And what exactly is leaking out of the gut and into the body?
Yeah.
So that sounds awful.
This is where it gets highly toxic. Your intestines are full of gram-negative bacteria, which, they're perfectly safe and healthy as long as they stay inside the digestive tract.
Right.
But when that barrier breaks, bacterial endotoxins, specifically a molecule called lipopolysaccharide, or LPS, they translocate out of the intestines and leak directly into your systemic bloodstream.
So your body is basically poisoning itself from the inside out.
Yes. And the immune system detects these endotoxins in the blood and mounts a massive systemic inflammatory response.
It panics.
It completely panics. The body initiates an emergency purge protocol, which is why a runner who felt totally fine at mile 40 is suddenly hit with severe, crippling nausea and vomiting at mile 50.
Yeah.
The body is trying to expel anything in the stomach because it literally thinks it's under toxic attack.
So you are out on the trail, this nausea hits you like a brick wall, and your instinct, your absolute primal instinct, is to just stop eating completely. You think, if I put one more calorie in my mouth, I will throw up. So how do you manage this emergency? Because stopping fueling seems like the only option.
It is the most common reaction for sure, but it is the absolute worst thing you can do.
Really?
If you stop eating during a 100-mile race, you fall into a caloric deficit hole that you will never, ever climb out of.
Because you hit that 2.5 BMR limit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You hit the limit, your body will cannibalize its muscle, and your race is over. You cannot stop fueling.
Okay, so what do you do?
Instead, you have to manage the ischemia. The first step is to drastically slow your pace, usually down to a walk,
Wait, why does walking fix the nausea?
because walking requires significantly less oxygen delivery to the leg muscles than running does. By lowering the intensity, you remove that detour sign on the blood highway.
Oh,
You allow blood to flow back to your digestive tract, restoring oxygen to those suffocating intestinal cells and slowing down the leakage of the endotoxins.
that makes so much sense. Okay, so once you are walking, the sources outline a very specific protocol. First, you switch entirely away from solid foods back to liquid, multiple transportable carbohydrates.
Yes.
Because solids require mechanical digestion and a lot more blood flow, whereas liquids can pass through the stomach much easier.
Exactly. You also want to utilize ginger.
Just regular ginger.
Yeah, the clinical data strongly supports taking 1,500 milligrams of ginger, usually in a chew or a capsule. It acts as a incredibly powerful antiemetic to calm the gastric distress.
Okay, and then there is the caloric math, which I found fascinating. If you were eating 300 calories an hour before you got sick, you do not try to force 300 calories down once the nausea hits.
No, you'll just throw it up.
Right. You reduce your intake in small 50-calorie increments until the stomach settles.
Yes.
You drop to 250 calories, you sip it slowly and see how you feel. If you're still nauseous, you drop to 200, but you find the highest number your stomach can tolerate, and you never, ever let that number hit zero.
Right. Of course, the ultimate goal is to prevent this ischemic nightmare from happening in the first place, right?
Oh, yeah, ideally.
And the most fascinating defense mechanism athletes have is that the gut is actually a trainable muscle.
I find this concept incredible. We spend so much time training our hearts and our legs, but you can literally put your stomach through a training block.
You have to. Research shows that if you intentionally consume high amounts of carbohydrates during your practice runs, like forcing yourself to hit that 60 to 90 grams per hour mark, even when you don't want to, your body undergoes specific physiological adaptation.
It builds more toll booths, right?
Exactly. The carbohydrates you eat are absorbed through specific transport proteins in your intestinal lining, primarily the SGLT1 transporters for glucose.
Okay.
Think of these transporters as toll booths on a highway. If you have too many cars or carbs and not enough toll booths, traffic backs up.
Causing the bloating and nausea.
Exactly. But by consistently practicing your fueling on training runs, your body physically upregulates the expression of these proteins.
It literally builds more toll booths.
It does, allowing massive amounts of glucose to pass from your stomach into your bloodstream much faster, completely preventing the backup.
Okay, so you've trained your gut, you've managed the blood flow detour, you've navigated the nausea, and you finally crossed the finish line of your ultra marathon.
You made it.
You stop running, but your body doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't.
It suddenly registers the immense catastrophic energetic debt you just incurred over the last 24 hours. And this triggers a highly misunderstood physiological phase called post-race hyperphagia,
Right.
which is essentially the uncontrollable biological urge to eat absolutely everything you lay your eyes on for days.
It is an intense, almost frightening level of primal hunger.
And this brings us to a huge focus area for endurance athletes, because the prompt for today's deep dive actually asks us to cover this specifically. Listeners want to know the top 10 ways to stop overeating for ultra runners, because runners are terrified of gaining weight after a race. Their appetite goes completely out of control. But when we look at the biology, is stopping this hunger actually the correct approach?
It is absolutely not. Trying to literally stop overeating post-ultra is fighting a biological imperative.
Okay.
The very term overeating in this context is a total misnomer. You just burned 15,000 calories. Your body is in a profound deficit. You aren't overeating. You are desperately trying to replenish a depleted system.
But we can strategically manage this hypophagia, right? So you don't feel entirely out of control. And so you give the body the exact nutrients it needs to heal rather than just mindlessly eating junk food until you're sick.
Exactly. But first, why do we feel so completely out of control in the days following a race?
Yeah, why is it so intense?
It comes down to a massive hormonal shift in the hypothalamus. Leptin, which is your primary satiety hormone, the signal that tells your brain, we have enough energy, you are full, it takes a dramatic nosedive.
Because you're empty.
Right. The body perceives the extreme calorie deficit as a severe survival threat. And at the exact same time, ghrelin, the hormone that triggers appetite, spikes massively.
So it's a double whammy.
It's a hormonal whiplash. It creates rebound hunger. Your brain is screaming at you to forage for survival.
Okay, so we have to manage the whiplash. Let's weave through the best science-backed strategies to manage post-race appetite, fuel your recovery, and satisfy that hunger without feeling like you've completely lost control.
Yes.
Let's do the top 10 ways to manage this, step by step.
Sounds good.
Okay, strategy number 1.
The first crucial step is utilizing what dietitians call structured intuition.
What does that mean?
Right after you cross the finish line, your normal hunger cues are entirely suppressed by the acute trauma of the event. Your adrenaline is sky high, your gut is damaged, and you might not actually feel hungry at all.
Right, you usually feel kind of sick.
Yeah. If you rely purely on intuition in those first few hours, you will undereat, which prolongs the catabolic state where your body eats its own muscle.
Oh, wow.
So you have to eat on a strict schedule initially. You let the structure guide you until your natural intuition returns.
Okay, strategy number 2. And that structure dictates that the moment you stop running, you prioritize immediate liquid carbohydrates.
Yes.
Within the first 0 to 30 minutes, you should be taking in 16 to 24 ounces of fluids loaded with electrolytes and easy to digest carbs.
Like a recovery shake or chocolate milk or a specialized sports mix.
Because liquids don't demand much from your battered stomach, and getting those carbs into the bloodstream immediately halts the muscle breakdown process.
Exactly.
Strategy number 3. Once the stomach settles a bit, you need to calculate your exact recovery. It needs to take the guesswork and the emotion out of eating.
This is so important. The clinical target post-race is exactly 1 gram of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight, and roughly 0.5 grams of protein per kilogram consumed in that early recovery window.
So that specific ratio flips the metabolic switch from breakdown to repair.
It does.
Which brings us to strategy number 4. And this brings up a massive misconception in the fitness world. Everyone thinks protein is the absolute king of recovery.
They do.
You see people crossing the finish line and immediately eating a massive steak or pounding huge scoops of whey isolate. Is protein actually the most important thing here? Is protein king?
It is essential, but it is not king. Carbohydrates are king for restoring your energy and glycogen stores.
Okay.
However, you absolutely need a specific threshold of protein, usually between 20 to 40 grams in that first real recovery meal.
But not just any protein, right?
Right. Within that protein, you specifically need 1 to 3 grams of the amino acid leucine.
Leucine.
Yes. Leucine acts as the actual biochemical key that unlocks the mTOR pathway, which is the biological mechanism that triggers muscle protein synthesis. Without leucine, the muscles won't rebuild efficiently.
Which leads to strategy number 5, a question a lot of runners ask. Can you overeat protein? If I eat 100 grams of protein right after a race, does that speed up recovery?
No. And this is a critical error many runners make. You absolutely can overeat protein, and it won't help you.
Why not?
The body has a strict cap on how much protein it can synthesize into muscle at one single time.
Which is?
Usually around that 30 to 40 gram mark per meal. More importantly, protein has a high thermic effect. It takes a lot of energy to digest, and it makes you feel incredibly full. If you fill your stomach entirely with excessive protein, you physically won't have room to eat the massive amount of carbohydrates you actually need to replace the 15,000 calories you burned.
So what's the daily limit?
Hit your daily upper limit of 1.8 to 2.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, and then shift your focus entirely back to carbs and healthy fats.
Got it. Okay, strategy number 6. Another mistake runners make is reaching for a massive salad right after the race because they want to eat healthy after eating sugary gels all day. But introducing fiber too quickly is disastrous.
It is. During the race, you intentionally avoided fiber to keep the gut clear, right? Well, your intestinal lining is currently inflamed and damaged from ischemia. If you jump a massive load of raw vegetables and heavy fiber into that damaged system immediately, you will experience severe bloating and gastric distress.
No, you have to wait.
You need to delay high fiber foods for at least 1 to 2 hours post-race. Stick to simple carbs first. After that window, introducing fiber is brilliant because it slows down digestion and helps manage that wild rebound hunger, making you feel comfortably full later on.
That makes total sense. Strategy number 7. While you are delaying fiber, you should be aggressively prioritizing anti-inflammatory ingredients.
Yes.
Because the inflammation in your legs and your gut is off the charts. We want to soothe that lining using polyphenols.
Polyphenols are incredibly powerful plant compounds.
Like what?
Drinking cloudy apple juice, tart cherry juice, or blending blueberries into your recovery smoothie. That provides a massive dose of antioxidants that specifically help repair the oxidative stress in the tissues.
And coupling those with omega-3 fatty acids from chia seeds or walnuts can significantly reduce delayed onset muscle soreness.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to strategy number 8. Speaking of fats, do not restrict them. There is this lingering 90s era fear of dietary fat, but fats are actually your best friend for managing post-race hyperphagia.
They are. Fats slow down the gastric emptying rate. If you only eat plain rice after a race, you will wake up absolutely ravenous at 3 a.m.
Because it just burns right through you.
Exactly. If you mix in avocados, nuts, or a heavy drizzle of olive oil, it promotes long-lasting satiety.
Okay, strategy number 9. And this leads to perhaps the most important point for the days following the race. Do not restrict your intake on rest days.
This is where the psychological battle really begins for a lot of people.
Oh yeah. Runners look at their smartwatches, they see they only burn 2,000 calories because they laid on the couch all day recovering, and they think, well, I shouldn't eat much today.
But your smartwatch isn't tracking the massive internal construction project happening inside your body.
It has no idea.
Your body is expending an immense amount of unseen energy to repair micro tears in the muscle, rebuild the gut lining, and restore hormonal balance. If you undereat on your rest days, you completely stall the healing process.
Which ultimately comes down to our 10th and final strategy, reframing your guilt.
Yes.
You have to stop viewing the urge to eat a second dinner 3 days after a 100-miler as a failure of willpower. It is not a weakness. It is a mandatory biological replenishment phase. You have to grant yourself grace.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so to put all this science into practice, the sports dietitians actually provided 3 specific, easy-to-digest post-run meal formats that hit all these recovery targets perfectly.
Yeah, these are super practical. Format 1 is for the runner with an iron stomach. Basically, sitting down to a full, balanced meal within 1 hour of finishing.
What does that look like?
Think a large serving of white rice, 30 grams of easily digestible protein like grilled chicken or tofu, and a drizzle of olive oil, but avoiding heavy raw veggies.
Format 2 is for people whose stomachs are still a bit wrecked and who need to ease into it. You drink a simple protein and carb shake immediately at the finish line just to get the leucine and glucose in.
Right.
And then you wait 60 to 90 minutes for the stomach to settle before eating a whole food meal, like a turkey sandwich or a bowl of oatmeal.
And format 3 is the hybrid approach.
Yeah.
A high-calorie, anti-inflammatory smoothie.
Ooh, I like this one.
You blend tart cherry juice, a banana, protein powder, and a scoop of peanut butter, and you pair it with a solid, simple carb like a salted bagel.
So you get the liquid hydration, the polyphenols, the leucine, and the solid starch all within that critical first hour.
Exactly. It covers all the bases.
So we just laid out the perfect, scientifically validated recovery plan. We understand the biological imperative of hyperphagia, the metabolic ceiling, and the necessity of massive caloric intake.
The math is clear.
What happens when an athlete's mind fundamentally overrides their biology? What happens when the culture of the sport convinces runners to actively ignore their hunger, leading them to restrict calories while demanding extreme output from their bodies?
That brings us to the really dark side of endurance sports. The psychological cost of this extreme energy demand is something the community is honestly only just beginning to reckon with.
If you are an amateur runner, right, you're balancing a career, family, and heavy training volume. How do you navigate the intense pressure to look a certain way?
It's so tough.
Because if you look at running social media or even just the starting line of a local race, there is a very specific ultra lean body type that is glorified. It's incredibly easy to fall into dangerous traps when you are surrounded by it.
And the prevalence of these issues is genuinely shocking. Clinical studies in the ultra running community indicate that between 32% and 62.5% of ultra endurance runners exhibit eating disorders or disordered eating behaviors.
62.5%.
Yeah.
That means potentially more than half the people at any given starting line are actively struggling with their relationship with food and their bodies.
It is an epidemic, and it is largely driven by what researchers and psychologists call the speedy shoe mentality.
The speedy shoe mentality. Explain that.
There is a pervasive false equation in endurance culture that extreme leanness automatically equals better performance. Athletes adopt the mindset of, if I am lighter, I have less weight to carry up the mountain, so I will run faster.
Which sounds logical on the surface.
Right, but physiologically, they are stripping the engine to lighten the chassis. The car might be lighter, but it no longer has the horsepower to actually run.
And the data points to a very specific danger zone where this mindset becomes catastrophic. The 14-hour threshold.
Yes.
Once an athlete trains more than 14 hours a week, the risk of developing disordered eating behaviors and exercise addiction absolutely skyrockets.
Because at 14 hours a week, the caloric demand is so massive that any intentional restriction isn't just a diet anymore, it's a metabolic assault.
Wow.
The body is burning thousands of calories, and if you refuse to replace them because you are terrified of gaining weight, you trigger a cascade of systemic failures.
Which leads directly to REDS relative energy deficiency in sport.
Exactly.
This is the clinical term for what happens when your energy intake is insufficient to support both your exercise volume and your basic biological functions.
Right. The body has to make a choice.
Yeah.
And it chooses to shut down non-essential systems to keep you alive.
We need to detail the warning signs of REDS and exercise addiction, because if you are listening to this, you need to know what to watch out for in yourself, your friends, and your running partners.
Absolutely. The first major clinical sign is a drop in thyroid hormone, specifically T3, which can fall by 5% or more.
And what does T3 do?
T3 is essentially your body's thermostat. When you are in a severe energy deficit, the brain turns down the thermostat to conserve fuel.
Oh!
Your metabolic rate slows down, you feel chronically cold all the time, and you feel entirely drained of energy.
Secondly, there is a massive 13% spike in cortisol. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone.
Right.
Because you are starving the body while forcing it to run, your HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, is locked in an emergency fight or flight state. You are constantly in a state of high stress alertness, which ironically prevents proper recovery.
And that chronic cortisol spike leads directly to chronic sleep disturbances. Athletes with ready ass often complain that they are exhausted all day, but when they try to sleep, their heart is pounding, and they suffer from severe insomnia.
That sounds miserable.
It is. Another cardiovascular warning sign is pathological bradycardia, where the resting heart rate dips dangerously low.
But runners always brag about a low heart rate.
I know, but in this case, it's not because the heart is incredibly fit. It's because the heart muscle itself is weakening and trying to conserve energy.
But perhaps the most permanently damaging consequence of RDS is osteopenia, which is severe bone density loss.
This is a big one.
When energy is critically low, the body stops producing the hormones required for bone remodeling. The osteoclasts keep breaking down old bone, but the osteoblasts don't have the energy to build new bone.
Right.
And this isn't just a small issue. This affects up to 30.1% of male ultra runners and 16.7% of women.
And that is a crucial point to emphasize. Historically, REDS was known as the female athlete triad,
Right.
which was heavily associated with the loss of the menstrual cycle, which, by the way, is a massive glaring warning sign that an athlete's reproductive system has been shut down due to energy starvation.
Huge red flag.
Huge. But the modern data shows this heavily impacts men as well. Nearly a third of male ultra runners are actively losing bone density. They're running on fragile skeletons, which is why stress fractures in the femur and pelvis are so incredibly common in this sport.
So if we know the physical consequences are this dire, how do we fix the psychological root? How do we foster a healthier relationship with food and training volume? How do athletes balance their highly competitive goals with actual long-term well-being?
It requires a fundamental rewiring of how the athlete views food and their own value. And honestly, often this requires professional support.
What kind of support?
The most effective treatments involve cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, and dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT.
Okay.
These therapies help athletes identify the irrational thoughts like, eating this bagel makes me a failure, and replace them with objective, performance-based truths.
And there are specific pillars to this recovery, right?
Yes. The therapy focuses on 5 pillars of recovery: building eating competence, fueling specifically for sport rather than restricting for aesthetics, rebuilding body esteem independent of race results, developing recovery skills that don't involve compulsive movement, and building emotional resilience.
A huge part of that resilience is managing social pressure. Athletes have to consciously prioritize performance, longevity, and availability over aesthetics. Being the leanest runner at the starting line absolutely does not matter if your bone density is so low that you are sidelined with a stress fracture for 6 months. You have to value being healthy enough to show up to the starting line year after year.
And a phenomenal strategy for athletes struggling with the intense guilt of eating is using objective data to grant themselves what we call objective permission to eat.
Explain how objective permission works in practice, because I think this could help a lot of people.
When you have an eating disorder, hunger cues are wrapped in shame. You feel guilty for wanting food.
Right.
But if you work with a registered sports dietitian who hands you a strict, mathematically calculated meal plan, or if you use a continuous glucose monitor that literally shows your blood sugar crashing on a screen, it removes the emotion from the decision.
Oh, I see.
You aren't eating because you gave in to a craving or failed at a diet. You are eating because the objective data dictates that your engine requires 80 grams of carbohydrates right now to prevent tissue breakdown.
It externalizes the decision, which provides immense psychological relief to an anxious athlete.
That's right.
And we cannot stress enough the importance of mental health resources here.
Yeah.
You cannot willpower your way out of REDS or an exercise addiction.
No, you really can't.
Struggling athletes need multidisciplinary monitoring. That means working simultaneously with a sports dietitian to handle the metabolic math, a psychological counselor to manage the CBT, and an athletic trainer or coach to ensure a safe, gradual return to training volume.
It is a team effort to rebuild both the chassis and the engine.
To pull all of this together, we've covered an immense amount of ground today.
We really have.
We started at the absolute limits of human metabolism, identifying that you cannot outwill your metabolic ceiling. That 2.5 times BMR limit is a hard biological rule dictated by your gut, and if you respect it, you avoid overtraining syndrome.
Yes.
We broke down the practical science of fueling from 800 grams of carb-loading pasta down to budget-friendly rice balls and salted pretzels on the trail.
We examine the physiological trauma of splanchnic hypoperfusion, understanding that a mix of liquid gels and whole foods isn't a sign of weakness. It is a strict biological requirement to manage gut ischemia and endotoxin leakage.
And crucially, we address the psychological battles. When you finish that race, treating post-race hyperphagia as a biological imperative rather than a failure of discipline is the key to recovery.
It's all connected.
So whether you are a weekend warrior aiming for your first 50K or a dedicated 100-mile ultra veteran, your body is a high-performance engine. It deserves deep respect, it demands adequate fuel, and frankly, when things go wrong, it deserves a lot of grace.
If you take care of the engine will take you wherever you want to go.
I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over on your next long run. We've spent this entire time discussing how the body fundamentally shuts down digestion, leaks toxins, drops reproductive hormones, cannibalizes its own bone, and prioritizes basic survival during extreme endurance.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
So it really begs a philosophical question. Are ultramarathons actually a beautiful celebration of what human evolution is capable of? Or are they an active, intentional rebellion against our own survival instincts? Keep running, keep fueling the engine, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Wow, that was a lot of information for sure about overeating. Hopefully you guys come away with that with something helpful. I know I did. I probably keep on the protein. I did my first week with 150 grams of protein. I don't think I feel any different, to be honest with you. Definitely, I've been doing it with chicken, but maybe I need to be doing it with egg whites. I don't, at least right now, I don't feel any difference. It's only been a week, so, I mean, not a big difference, but, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel any difference after eating 150 grams of protein, but, I was coming from like 100, so maybe that's not a big difference. I don't know. Just a lot of chicken, I guess, every day. So, just kind of getting in the habit of eating the 150 grams of protein. I'm like 150 pounds, so that's like 68 kilos for the rest of the world. If you don't deal with pounds, 68 kilos. So, for me, that's in my BMI weight range, I guess. And then I've been taking clove and beet powder. I would eat beets, but I tried it for I guess like a month, and it was just too messy for my liking, I guess. I mean, I can't see me doing it for the rest of my life, so kind of moved on past it. But I did try it. The problem I had with beets was when you peel them, I'd get that red stuff all over my hands. Sometimes it would become on my shirt, and it's just a tough stain to get out. So I don't know. Also, I don't really like the taste of them. So if you like beets, that's great. I'm happy for you. It is a great powerhouse food to have. But anyways, I decided to get some beet powder, which is just some powder, I guess. And I've been eating that or drinking that with some clover, and for the past week, and that seems to be helping my breathing, I think. Something with the clover, I think, kind of, I don't know, it smells really nice. It kind of smells like Christmas almost, is how I kind of smell it, or what I think when I smell it. It's almost like a cinnamon kind of smell. It's like a Christmas kind of like smell to it. But you don't want to overdo these products, right? With anything that's good for you. If you overdose on it or if you take too much, it can be harmful. So definitely put into Google or talk to a dietitian about the products to help you get the right doses. But been doing 1/4 of a tablespoon of the clover and the beet powder into just some water, and then drinking it. Doesn't taste that bad. Maybe it's just too small of a dose, but kind of easing myself into it. And at least when you look up clover, if you take too much clover, like 1 tablespoon, it can be harmful. So you definitely don't want to overdo it on the clover. So that's kind of what I've added into my daily habits right now is clover and some beet powder to help with breathing, I guess, when I'm running. Also the red light therapy on the legs. I have gotten faster, and I feel like I breathe better. So hopefully everything is working together in a sense. So, but that's the most information I got for you. I just treat my body like a science project to, I guess, be better each day. So, I appreciate you listening to this, and hopefully, once again, it was helpful, and you learned a lot about what to do after the race, or after your long run, and hopefully you won't overeat anymore and get the right nutrition that you need to become a better ultra runner. And don't forget, you can always hire me as your running coach, whether you're running a half marathon or your first 50K. Be happy to help you and get you a training schedule. But hopefully this podcast helps you as well, and maybe you don't need my services, so that's fine as well. So, but hopefully you guys are getting stronger and faster out there and breaking some records. All right, thanks for tuning in, and next week we are doing... So we're going to step away from the food and kind of keep moving forward here with different episodes. But the next one's going to be turning running into life practices. So hopefully that can help you. I think runners are they do really well at getting the schedule for the race and training and stuff like that. But sometimes it can be hard to put that practice into life practices. So whether that's business, or starting your own company, or just trying to be better. It just starts with scheduling your day, and scheduling your week, and scheduling your month, and then scheduling your year. That way you find the day works for you, not you working for the day. So we'll talk about that, and hopefully it can help you through life. So that's next week, and I hope to hopefully that can help you as well. Thanks for tuning in, and catch you on the next episode.